Well, welcome to the first Healed Approach episode where I am totally solo. Now, this feels really, really weird because after a year of recording episodes, always with a guest, today I have decided to do my first solo episode, and I'm going to be doing more of these if it's something that you like. And the topic that I want to touch on today is about fixing women. Right. So we have developed this idea for some strange reason that we need to fix women in order for them to be accepted in the workplace, particularly in the construction industry. But we're really missing a trick here. Now, this is why we're seeing so many mentoring programs crop up for women. We're seeing lots of training programs. We're seeing lots of women in construction events. But really, it's not about fixing women. Women have everything they need in order to succeed in the workplace. They have everything they need in order to be great leaders in the construction industry. The problem is the workplace. So many workplaces, including the construction industry, have been developed and evolved on patriarchal ideas, and understandably so. Once upon a time, it was mainly men that were in the workplace while women were at home doing the duties that they traditionally have been seen to do. But things have now changed, and more women are equipped and capable of doing more in the workplace. So it's about time we started to change the way that we're doing things. The reason that we feel like we need to fix women is because they don't fit into the mold that has been created for an ideal worker. So an ideal worker is usually a middle-aged white man, and women, of course, are not middle-aged white men. So they don't fit into that ideal box. So they're constantly fighting this battle. They're constantly battling with themselves about how they should be in the workplace. We're trying to fix them. We're trying to make them, or we have historically tried to make them more aggressive, more masculine. And this has been at the disadvantage of women who are now entering the industry and are trying to show they're more empathetic, they're more caring side, they're more nurturing side, because this is a modern way of leading, and we need to harness and we need to nurture that. And we need to come away from the idea that women need to develop this thick skin. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? If you are going to come into an industry that is male intensive and you want to become a leader, you want to become the best leader that you can be, of course, you need to make sure that you take responsibility for who you are. You need to create firm boundaries. You need to be in charge of your behaviors. And it's always a fine juggle between all the other priorities that exist within your life. But of course, this is the same for anybody. It's exactly the same for men. There are lots of hidden barriers for men also in the industry. But women, they need to understand that they can be themselves. They can bring their femininity into it. They don't need to deny it. They don't need to turn into bossy. Well, I mean, we say bossy, okay? And what does that mean? You know, this is the thing. This is exactly the thing. This actually perfectly exemplifies the conditioning and the where we are with things. If a woman is assertive, if a woman is strong, if a woman stands up for herself, she's seen as bossy. Okay. But also as well, if she doesn't do so, if she is timid or meek or shy, then she's seen as not being strong enough and not being able to navigate the workplace. So it's like whatever we do, we can't do it right for wrong. Now, I've worked with lots and lots of women who I've mentored, who have literally sacrificed everything in order to learn more, to grow more, to develop more, because they think that is the thing that's going to get them the pay rise. That is the thing that's going to get the promotion. But if we are judging women constantly by white male standards, then they're never going to fit. And if the person that is deciding who should get that pay rise or who should get that promotion is a man, a white man, then they are not necessarily going to see the value that a woman can bring into that role, no matter how much work and development she's done on herself, because she doesn't fit. And also as well, something that we really need to kind of bear in mind is this invisible barrier that women often face, in that they suddenly are not a great asset if they suddenly have children. But that is just absolutely short-sighted. Now, I know so many amazing women out there who have become even better and added more value to their organizations once they have become mothers. And I know that I am one of them, because when you become a mother, just as when you become a father, you step up. But the issue is, of course, that men don't face the same barriers in the workplace, the same invisible barriers that women do. We're often told to go into more nurturing careers. We're told to go into education because that will suit our lifestyle as a mother better. But these are invisible barriers. These are parts of the patriarchy that we need to begin to break down. Now, whenever I speak to a client about how they can increase the diversity within their organization, and in particular the gender diversity, this is always a topic that I touch upon, because I'm very often asked to do training for women, to do mentoring for women, to do coaching for women. Now, I think this is really, really valuable for women that are coming into the industry, because often we are not taught how to navigate male intensive environments. So I think it's really good to equip women as they come into an industry, whether they're coming into it as a second career or they're coming into it, early on in their careers, the skills to be able to do that, the skills to the resilience, the ability to find their own voice. But the issue then is that we need to retain them within the industry. So we need to make sure that we are looking at the ways in which we are disadvantaging women, and also that we're disadvantaging any minority. Because, like I said, if you don't fit that demographic, then you are going to experience inequalities. And it's about time we accepted that these inequalities exist, because that is the first step. I often hear people say, well, this doesn't happen in my organization, or, we've got no issue with women. Women are, just as important as men, and they add such value. They're great leaders, etc. But the thing is, yes, they do add so much value. As a man will never be able to appreciate the barriers and the experiences that a woman goes through. And they're probably not going to know about them, because many women are afraid to voice them. So there are lots of men that could potentially be amazing allies out there, could potentially really champion what we are doing and use their privilege to do so. But unless, as women, we are in an environment where we feel safe to be able to do that, then it's never going to happen. So we need to begin to have these conversations. We need to begin to really look at our policies, really look at our recruitment, really look at what we are doing to make sure that diversity is reflected and inclusion and equity and inclusion are really prioritized. Because how can we expect it to happen when our executive boards are made up of the same faces, the same people with the same ideas? Things are never, ever going to change. So I would always suggest, as an organization, you start with awareness. You start with building awareness around this. You start by training your teams, training your people. I say training is not not necessarily the right word to use. It's more about educating them. So, get somebody in, and get somebody external in. Not that I'm trying to sell my services, of course, but I honestly do feel that so it's not just about internal diversity, you need also that diversity of perspective from somebody who is not within the organization. They can come in, they have an authority that you will not necessarily have within the organization. They will also create more of a sense of safety for your teams, because often, no matter what we say, no matter how, this is going off on a little bit of a tangent, I am a big advocate of psychological safety. I think that it is a term that has become quite a toxic narrative, because we talk about it a lot, but are we really doing it? But fundamentally, that sense of belonging, that feeling of safety at work is super, super important. But what we cannot escape from is the fact that there will always be, whilst the education system is as it is, there will always be this sense of fear, I guess, around being but being able to take a risk and say maybe some of the things that you feel that you need to say to your line manager or to your boss, because of the hierarchy that we're taught through the education system. So yes, you may have a team of people that do feel that they can come to you for most things, but there will always be that little bit that they hold back for reasons like I said. And it's really, really difficult to break down that conditioning where, within an organization without bringing somebody else in, without bringing an external person in to be able to dig deep beneath those layers of that onion and really give you that feedback that's going to be super important moving forward. Because awareness is the first step. If we cannot admit and acknowledge that inequalities are existing, then we are not able to then move on to the understanding stage. Because once you've developed this awareness, once you know what it is that you're dealing with, once you can understand why we've got the hierarchies that we've got in place, why it is that things are set up the way that they are, you can then move on to understanding some of the barriers, the invisible barriers that exist. And this is not about men versus women. It's not about any minority versus any one minority versus another minority. This is about unity. This is about people coming together, people sharing experiences, people being able to show their vulnerabilities in order to move forward and create better workplaces. Because if we don't really, if we're not going to be creating better workplaces, particularly in construction, how can we honestly expect to create a better built environment, a more diverse built environment? A diverse built environment starts with diversity within organizations and within teams. And it means thinking outside the box and not thinking this is the way we've always done things, so this is the way we're always going to do them. Why is it that you only have to give X amount of maternity leave to women, and maybe it is that you're toying around with some maternity leave for men, but maybe it's not looking the same as it does for women? Why is it that you feel that you've got to have bums on seats 9 till 5 Monday to Friday? Even with new flexible working programs, even with new flexible ways of working, there is still this idea that you've got to keep an eye on your people and make sure that they are, sat at their desk at certain times. Now, this doesn't inspire creativity or innovation. Different people work better at different times of the day. Do not get me wrong. We need that sense of community at work. We need people to come together. We need that sense of belonging. So I do feel that it's really hard to foster that with a fully remote team, but a hybrid way of working is a brilliant way forward. But really think about how you're implementing that. Think about, are you not creating the same expectations of people when they're working from home as you are in the office? Because if you are, then what is the point? So it really is about looking at different ways, exploring ways. And this is, like I say, this is really, really hard when you have done things the way that you've done things for a certain amount of time, because it's difficult to think that you can do things differently. But this is the beauty of getting somebody else in. They can help you look at things from a different perspective. They can help you to unpick the lack of awareness that there is amongst your organization, amongst your people. They can help you really look at the unconscious biases that exist, because until we are able to acknowledge and accept these, we cannot ever begin to create more diverse, more equitable, and more inclusive work environments. And fundamentally, it all starts with leadership. It starts with what you're doing at the top, and that will trickle down. There is no point in doing DEI workshops. There's no point in doing sustainability workshops if you are not looking at things from the top down or from the bottom up. I call it from the bottom up because I see it as a pyramid. Okay. At the bottom, you've got your processes, you've got your procedures, you've got your organizational justice. Then you've got your leadership, your culture development. And then on top, you've got your nice workshops. You've got your, all of that nice fluffy stuff. You've got your well-being days. You've got all that good stuff that complements all of the really robust, meaningful stuff that is underneath. Anyway, I feel like that has been hopefully, well, I've gone off on a few tangents, I'm not going to lie, but I do hope that that has been a worthwhile first solo podcast. I hope that you've made some sense of the points that I've been trying to make. I think all of these points are things that I want to explore a little bit more in separate detail, because I think some of them do deserve that, like particularly around women in the workplace and women in leadership positions, and how we can encourage them moving forward to lean into their femininity in order to be able to lead in a way that complements the way that men are leading. Because the last thing we need is women to do the same thing that men are doing, because otherwise, what is the point in diversity? We're not going to gain anything from it. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Please let me know if there's anything that you want me to touch on more. Please let me know if you have any questions. And also, of course, if you want me to come in and talk to your teams, then also please make sure that you get in touch. Also, like and share this podcast just as you would any other. And thank you for listening. I will see you next time.